So it is setting up. It's going to take a minute.
Let me see. Got an alert that you're live now.
Yeah. So don't forget to turn your volume off.
Thank you. I had it down and then I turned it up. We're all set.
Okay. So let me go on my Facebook. Yeah. Let me turn my stuff down. I said I had it in the settings and okay. So all right. So we're gonna get started soon. All right. So and we got the recording going on. Okay, wonderful. Hello, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, lovers and haters, haters and lovers. Welcome to Standing in Your Truth podcast. This is episode number 22. I am your host, Armond Anderson Bell. Just a disclaimer, like I always want to do from the beginning, I want to get it out there because this is a show, just like the title says, Standing in Your Truth. So for myself and my guests, when I do have them on, we're doing that. We're standing in our truth, telling our stories, and having you come along on our journeys. This is not the podcast if you're opinionated and not open-minded enough to share in a person's opinions, thoughts, and viewpoints, then this isn't the podcast for you. This is also a podcast where people have the free range to do as they say and say as they do and walk away as adults because we used to be able to agree to disagree. Now we're standing in our truth. So with that being said, welcome to Standing in Your Truth, episode number 22. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, lovers and haters, haters and lovers, welcome. My special guest on my episode tonight entitled Surviving Single Motherhood Part 2 is a dear friend of mine, almost 26 years. Wow.
I'm not that old.
You said what?
Not that old.
I claim it, honey, because I know people that didn't make it. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome my good friend, Miss Jessica Reedy. How are you, Jessica?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so glad we have this time. I feel like Carol Burnett. I'm so glad we have this time together. We've been planning this episode for a while when I did my first episode of Surviving Motherhood, which featured my good friend, also from high school, Miss Salamatu Denbour. And you stepped up and was interested in doing the show too. And so I'm so glad because on this leg of my podcast, I'm able to do what I love what I do, and share my journey with my friends and associates. So this is like a dream. And we had this plan for an in-studio sit down, but because of everything going on, everything was delayed. So now I am back. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Delayed and from home, right?
Yes. So, I'm so glad that we are getting out with this technology and learning new ways to adapt. We are an adaptive people. So I'm so grateful for that. So let's get a start with giving a brief intro, because I want you to go on. But Jessica Reedy is an actor. I mean, excuse me, actor. I'm doing mine.
Decades, love.
Although we used to act and play production, but
no,
she's
you
an author.
To scream out loud.
She is an author. She is a mother of three, and she has so much going on. She's a survivor. I love her. I guess you would say your quote of life is you're taking post-traumatic stress and turning it into post-traumatic resilience. So again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ms. Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Jessica, give us a brief intro onto who you are, and then we're going to take everyone on a journey today.
Who am I? I mean, who's anybody? I am a mother. I am a daughter. I'm a sister. I am a person of color. I am a minority businesswoman. I'm a survivor of domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
uh, childhood sexual abuse, as well as rape as an adult. I have also experienced and survived domestic violence. I've been a surrogate mother and an egg donor.
Mm.
um, I've lived a life that I can be proud of, and a life that there are moments that were very, very cringeworthy.
As we all, as us all.
And I'm very much just like that other person, you know. So much of my history and who I am, you will absolutely find in other people. Because
Right.
the things that I've been through, the resilience I've learned and earned, it's within so many people. I'm not alone.
Right.
But I'm Jessica.
For me, as someone who is embracing everything that I've been through at 41, having this platform not only for myself but for other people to allow their journeys and their stories to be shared. And when we were talking earlier, pre-show, but we as people, we spend so much time trying to figure out and focus on what divides us. And if we really take the moment to embrace our individuality as well as understanding that we all are connected as people, your story is so interesting. And again, we've been friends for a long time, and I've shared on some of the things, but these are things that I didn't know into full detail. And so I thank you for allowing me to have you and share your journey with you, because you're inspiring me as well. Let's talk about the books, because that's what I'm in the process of, self-publishing. So you not only have one, you have three, right?
No, I have two. I'm working on the third
Two.
one.
Okay.
I have two. So it's funny. I was giving it my all in my job and realized that I was still feeling bored. I wasn't doing enough. It's Black people magic. I could do it all. So I
Okay.
wrote I wrote my very first one. This is Memoirs of a Warrior Dragon Slayer. There's room for more. It's
Hmm.
available on it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Google, and iTunes. This was about me sharing who I am. I'd
Hmm.
had multiple friends and people that I'd been around, but never really shared about who I am and what I've been through. And I noticed a pattern of every time I shared a little bit of what I've been through, there was shock and shut mouths and, oh my God, I can't believe that you've lived through this. Um, and I decided to finally write it and face all of my demons and let them beat me up quite a bit in the process. um, and then it was in the same year, I was going through this emotional tug of war. I'd been working hard, diligently at this job, giving it 110%. And the one time that I decided to slack off, I wrote a book. So I was still
That's
working.
some good slacking off.
Right? I was giving it my 110%, and I wanted a title change. I'd been at this job almost 3 years and I'd never had a title change. And that's all I wanted. And I was determined, made a slideshow and everything of why I earned this title. And in the end of the day, I didn't get it. I got a raise. I got a really good raise, but they wouldn't give me that title. They wouldn't give
Mm.
that to me. And I was so defeated. And then I realized I'm an author. I didn't need the title they were giving me. I didn't need the title to reinforce their dream. I had my own. And I wrote
Mm.
my second book. This is Uncovering My Sins.
Hmm.
This one is a poetry book. It's a poetry book that spans the time that I had been through abuse, the time through my childhood. I had written about Columbine and the very first shooting that I had experienced and lived through. Not that I was there in person, but had
Right.
experienced collectively as a nation. Wrote about that and shared that in this book. And it was also this time of I'm self-published. I published my first one on my own, except for the cover. I had paid someone to design the cover on the first book. And the second one, I decided I was going to teach myself new software. I taught myself how to use Adobe InDesign to create the cover. And it was this
Oh.
feeling of I didn't need him to give me that title. I can take
Hmm.
whatever title I want. If I wanted to become a businesswoman and own an LLC, it's not that hard. And I can do it if I choose to. And
Right.
that's why I wrote those two books.
It's amazing that when we're in the midst of going through what we do, we sometimes are disconnected and not realizing that that's the strength that we need. Because I personally, they say, wounded healers. And so I've learned to embrace that notion, because in our mind, and we've been taught that everything has to be a certain way and it has to look this way in order for it to be right, until we change the narrative. So
Absolutely.
at the beginning of your book, you were in the process of changing your narrative, and you did. Talk about that journey, personally and professionally.
um, it's crazy. Professionally, I had only gotten on my feet recently. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. I took care of the kids. I went to school when I had earned the right to. I had to ask for permission each quarter to go to school, and I did get that permission, and I did go to school because my ex-husband did not want me to relax and have fun while he was working hard at work. So I had to get that permission. That was just the hierarchy of our relationship. So I was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the kids, and not in the workplace for 15 years. So when I finally did start working, because our marriage ended and I was completely abandoned, didn't have any financial resources, I had to figure it out. Um, I learned that I could move around a lot easier if I did it through a temp agency. So I'd gotten temp jobs and I'd moved from place to place, and I was encouraged in that, because in that path I'd had people say my level of expectation for myself was a good job. My level of diligence and perseverance was a good job. And I felt encouraged by that. So here I am entering the workplace, never actually having a permanent full-time job in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bouncing around. And when I'd landed at my last job, I was working in, I started there as a temp. And through the amazing people around me that had taught me my role, I was able to move myself up to the point of feeling like I had accomplished something, to the point of feeling like I had earned respect. There were a couple of times I brought my kids to work with me for whatever reason, and I loved that experience because there were people that respected me saying hello. There were people that looked up to me as a professional, and they had kind things to say to my kids. And this was huge for me as a person that had been in the gutter, so to speak, career wise, when I first started in 2015. And that's when my marriage ended. 2016 was my first job. So when I had gotten to this level and I felt like I wanted more, I climbed from position to position to position. When my marriage ended and I had a part-time job, I was making about $10 an hour. By the time I had gotten to the point of saying, I'm ready for a new book, I'm ready for my first book, I was making over $25 an hour.
That's a good transition.
Right, because this is 2015 through 2019, or 2016 through 2019. That's not that many years to make that big of a jump.
Right.
But I did, and I worked my ass off. And I expected, to honor my growth, I had to keep rising. And I tried to do it at the same company. I tried to earn an award and recognition, which never came. I tried to earn a title change, which never came. I earned a pay increase, but that didn't honor my journey. And I felt I needed to do more. I wanted to do more, no matter what I did. And I don't know, it could be, if I want to go there, it could be race. It could be that I'm a woman, because at the time I was the only woman on the team. I was the only Black woman on the team. It could be anything. Quite honestly, I just think they didn't want it to be me. And that's okay too, because
Right.
staying there would have limited the growth that I had already experienced.
Right. That's something that we parallel a lot, again, the personal and professional.
Absolutely.
And it's sometimes difficult, and I'm only going to speak for myself, stepping out of the way, because we as human beings, we want so much and we want it how we want it and we see it, but not realizing that things are setting up, that we've spoken these things into the universe and the universe has heard us. It's just waiting for us to catch up.
Right.
So we talked about, you doing your book at this time. You're a mother of three,
Mhm.
and so that in itself is a journey. And so, let's talk about your journey, to motherhood.
It's funny, when I first met my ex-husband, I didn't want kids.
Oh,
I was in high school and my mom became a foster parent, and I saw kids that had been through the worst possible imaginable hell walk into our house, and the anger and the hurt they felt, it resonated through everything that they did, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So when I met him, I didn't want kids, and somehow he was able to show me a softer side of life that I hadn't experienced. And I thought I could do this. I could bring someone into the world, and he gave me hope. Um, so we had our first, and I realized I loved being pregnant. And we had our second and our third. Um, and it felt like it was right. It felt like the thing I wanted to do. Um, they are amazing, amazing human beings. And I'm very, very lucky to be their mom. Um, Motherhood, though, it has its twists and turns. My oldest was about 4 when he had speech delays, and found out later that he was on the autism spectrum. And I
okay.
also found out that my second child was on the autism spectrum. My little one's not. He has his own specialty.
Yeah.
um, he, a couple of weeks ago, came out of the closet, and he said, "Mom, I'm bisexual." Um, Again, motherhood has its twists and turns. Not something I fully expected, but thought was possible.
Right.
Um, and we're here, and it's who we are.
Right. It is such a beautiful journey. I have one of my close friends, Maisha, on the line as well, and she's going to be someone. But I've known her for a while, and she has children with special needs, as well as she's a foster mother. And I applaud you guys for being able to multitask. And so much. Again, my biggest responsibility, other than myself, is my cat. So I don't know what it's like to be responsible for another human being, and it's it's a blessing and it's an honor. But just like life, we do it without asking, we do it without thinking. Give me an idea on some of the journey, because I don't know how, when those things, I know when I came out of the closet, and I've heard from other people that the parents feel that there's something they've done wrong. You find out that your children that have come from you, or on the autism spectrum, or there's something wrong. How do you balance that out? And how do you come to grips with it? Because I know it's not just, oh, okay, it's a lot into it.
Oh yeah, I had to learn to let stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
um, I guess starting with my older kids, when they were diagnosed as on the spectrum, yeah, I went through this whole phase of frustration and anger, because every expectation I had had for my kids, I had to let go. I couldn't decide, this is what we're going to do and this is who we are and what we'll be. And it took a while for me to realize that was never my job. It was never my job to hold expectations for my kids. It was my job to support them. It was my job to guide them, but never to say, this is who you're going to be.
That's big. That's
Not
really
like
big,
it's
and
heavy.
so right.
I mean, I had speech therapists come to my home to work with my children. And this one lady said, look, you need to come to terms with the fact that your children may never speak. And you just have to get used to that. Now, they're teenagers. So every time my son says a curse word or cusses out a friend, I laugh and think to that time that lady said my kid would never talk.
Right.
It's an F you to her too.
It's like, you don't know who I know.
Exactly. So as difficult as it's been, it absolutely shown me there's a reward if I let them show me where they are leading their life. There's a reward if I encourage them, support them, guide them, and don't ever say, this is what you have to be, this is what you have to do. With my little one, maybe because of what his brothers had done, maybe because of my experience in high school with you and amazing friends that were
Who, me?
Oh yeah.
Not the Queen Diva.
I had so many amazing friends in high school that were, they reached out with their hearts well before they ever said, "This is who I am, look at me." They were, I mean, friends that we shared were close to me no matter how much self beat up I was in, no matter what I thought or felt. I never felt like I was wrong. You guys were amazing. And with my little one, there was a time a couple years back, he was playing with a dog, just playing with the dog and just being himself. And there was so much in that moment that I saw. And it was just this moment where my heart swelled and there was so much love because I could see, and this is an ugly little dog. It was an ugly dog. But I could see my son reached out with his heart before even worrying about what his dog looked like. I could
Mm,
see that he saw people before he saw what they looked like. And
right.
that told me there's a possibility he's going to fall in love with someone before he thinks about their gender.
Mm,
How incredible is that? How
right.
incredible is that for him to lead with his heart, not worried about what other people will think, what they'll say? That was incredible. So, I mean, even before this, though, I had told my kids a long time ago, no matter who you love, as long as they love and respect you, I'm cool with that.
Right.
And I told them I love them no matter who they love. And so coming out, it was a lot about me making it safe too, but all about him being confident in who he is.
Right. It's something that I've said in the past, in conversations, and we talked about it, during, our conversation earlier. But the thing that I loved about my high school is the diversity. And it's not just in, I mean, you're mixed raced, so you've had to deal with that. Me coming out of the closet and being in a school where there are multiple races. Yes, it has its bad points, but it also has, it helped prepare me for the world.
Absolutely.
Seeing, because minor, prior to coming to Marshall, I was in South LA, so there was only Blacks and Latinos. We had one little white boy in the school, and he was like the spectacle of the school. But when I got to Marshall and joined play production, I saw, Jose and Fernando, and I saw these big, vibrant Latino gay men, and I'm just like, oh my God, that could be me, you know. And so the second semester is when I,
It was
officially
you.
came out. Right. But it also taught me to love and appreciate other people, and that prior to, all I knew of Asian was just one kind. I didn't know there was different nationalities and orientation. Some of my best friends to this day, I have Filipino, Taiwanese, all these different things. And it wasn't a matter of they were different. It's just, oh, this is my friend.
Exactly.
A lot of us at Marshall connected just on that basis of, oh, this is my friend. We never really looked at race or gender. We, of course, we had the few people who, try to buck the system, but it was a beautiful thing. And those are the foundations that help us be a better person. I always say that I know what it's like to be discriminated on so many different levels. So why would I try to do the same thing to somebody else? If you like it, I love it. I can care less, because I know what it's like. So having those foundations make us a better person. And you talked about, let's call, again, go back to your husband. Your husband is of a different race, correct?
My ex-husband
Your
was
ex-husband, excuse
Caucasian.
me, sorry.
It's okay.
Yes.
I earned my last name back. No ring on my finger. I'm happy
Right.
with this.
So you've had to deal with your own personal mixed race
Absolutely.
heritage. And
Absolutely.
then now you're bringing these three young men up, and that is a challenge as well. How were you able to do that, or how are you able to do that?
um, that's it's an everyday thing. When I was younger, the kids that I was at, because I went to two elementary schools. I changed elementary schools because when I was first at Lockwood Elementary, um, I was the only black kid in the school. There's a lot of Hispanic kids, and they teased me. I was in third grade, second or third grade, and they said that I was a little slave girl that needed to get back on the ship and go back to Africa because we were studying Christopher Columbus at the time.
Right.
Um, I then went to Brentwood Science Magnet, and it was a school that was a magnet school, brought kids from all over LA. very, very diverse. We focused on science, and the kids that were African American, that had the kinky hair, that had the ability to play double dutch, and I freaking can't do that to save my life.
Oh, it's a skill, baby. Trust and
Right?
believe.
I did not have the rhythm for that. They did not like me. And in fact, my closest friends in elementary school were this sweet Jewish girl and this Caucasian girl. And Lisa and Erica absolutely brought me in under their wings, took care of me. We were close. And then middle school happened and I went to King. That was just the feeder school in my neighborhood, and that's
Right.
where I ended up. And I had to start over. And I did not know how to be normal because I had been pushed aside by these kids at Lockwood. And here I am seeing them in middle school, and I didn't want to be friends with them. They were mean to me when I was a kid.
Right.
And there were a bunch of other people that I got to be friends with, people that I didn't have in the same grade that were older than me, and they took me under their wings. And then as they went off to high school and I was still in junior high by myself, I was again transitioning to, I don't know these people. What do I do? It wasn't until high school that the relationships that I had really solidified in the ninth grade became my people.
Right.
And then as I was in high school and stuff, it was learning how to be different with different people and learning that it was the people and not where they came from that mattered. Now with my kids, see, I grew up in a household where my dad, bless his heart, used to say all the time, I can't trust white people. Now he's changed. My stepdad is Caucasian and they're actually buddies.
Okay. Oh, well, that's good.
It took about 20 years, but it's
Right.
happened.
Now, your dad is African American, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And my mom's from Thailand. My stepdad's a sweet, gentle white man from Oklahoma. And my ex-husband was Caucasian. My dad's changed his mind. But it's been this constant teaching my kids too, because there have been times when like I was out at a playground with my kids and this woman said, how much do you charge to be a nanny? And I'm like, these are my kids.
Wow.
And she was offended that I was not
Wow.
at all interested in watching her kids and that these were my kids that looked
Wow.
like beautiful mixed babies, you know?
That's so very much what is that movie? Imitation of Life. That is so wow. That
What do you do? I mean, I can be pissed off. I mean, that there's a whole thing about being an angry Black woman.
right. We try not to play into the narrative again. I've had
Exactly.
it's a struggle.
No, honestly, a good friend of mine in high school, maybe just out of high school, she said, Lonnie had said, you can pity the ignorant, but you can't be angry with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me, yeah, I can pity them. I can teach them. We can all learn to do better. But getting angry doesn't solve anything. Getting
Right.
angry doesn't fix it. In fact, getting angry usually scares people. I
Right.
unintentionally have on multiple occasions threatened many small men.
So am I. Small and big.
It's not intentional.
Right.
But I'm a special needs mom. You piss me off. I'm going to get to the point of what I need to do, figure it out, and get it done. I won't ask for your permission. I won't ask for your forgiveness. I'm just going to get it done. And that can threaten a lot of people. And that alone, without me being that angry Black person, is enough to say, don't trust her.
And it snowballs. The snowballs is not something that we want because you're always like, oh my God, you have to be cautious for other people. Absolutely. And I've learned over the years, like, and it gets tough because you're like, why do I have to be the one to turn the other cheek? Why do I have to be the non-aggressive one? Not because we're scared, not because we're some kind of, punk or anything, but because number one, it does no good. Okay. Number two, the teaching moment, we have to take it upon ourselves in the moment of hate to love a little bit more. Because if we're both yelling at the same time, no one is being heard. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather for it to go where you may not listen to me at the moment, but hopefully something I'm saying, and underneath everything we're saying I'm a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gets daunting. It gets, especially with what's going on in the climate right now.
Yeah.
But that's another conversation. I
Yeah,
did that show last week. I was supposed to have a show on Friday to revisit my show on Tuesday, but I just was emotionally and physically
tapped
drained.
out.
I couldn't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I've told my boys, as they are Asian, they are black, they are white, they're pandas. And I said, the only one, they're in a unique position where all they can do is change stereotypes. They need to show
right,
people, no, this is actually what a black man does. This
right,
is what a white man does. This is what an Asian man does. Because they touch all of these things just by breathing. And
right,
they're not average. And that's just it. No one is average. We're all
right.
unique. We're all amazing. We're all special.
And we have to embrace it. There's many
Absolutely.
a times I've been on set where I'm the only something. I'm the only black, the only gay, the only older person. And I walk away with them saying, "Oh, you're cool for X, Y, and Z." And I'm just like, why can't I just be cool for being Armand Anderson Bell?
Exactly.
And so in the midst of all that, again, I've had those things. I've had opportunities. Trust and believe, my on-site list is about a mile long. It ain't because I'm scared or anything. It's like, what's the point
Mm-hmm.
of going that route and to feeding into the negative? You already have this negative idea of what I can be or who I am, but it's no point. And
Exactly.
so you talked about your journey as a mother, but going back a little bit, you were an egg donor, if I'm not mistaken, before
Absolutely.
you were an actual mother. And
Mm-hmm.
you've also been a surrogate. So let's talk about that. And then also from my understanding as well, what's the difference between the two?
Okay. So when I was in my 20s, the idea of 1,500 cash sounded really great. Or it might have been, it was either 1,500 or 3,000. Anyway, it's a lot more
They
now.
taking men?
They are.
Okay.
No, but it was, for me, it was, was watching my mom, and she was a foster parent. When I was in high school, she became a foster parent. And I was watching her bring in these kids that ended up in foster care for various reasons. And I came across a clipping in the newspaper in the want ads, because I was actually looking at the newspapers. And there was an ad asking for people to be egg donors. And I thought, I'm not doing anything but throwing them away. I don't plan on getting pregnant. Might as well. And there was a process. It was 100 pages of questions, not 100 questions, 100 pages of questions typed up, and I had to respond to.
Wow.
It was a psychological evaluation. It was a physical evaluation. And then they took my picture on a Polaroid and put it in a folder with a bunch of other women and let these couples go through this album to see who they wanted to be an egg donor. It was just my egg and or eggs. And at the time I was chosen. I had decided I was okay with an anonymous donation. Um, my genetic material is likely out in the world somewhere. I have no idea where. I just know that the couple that chose really, really wanted to have a child, and they saw something in my picture and my answers that they wanted to raise. And that's amazing. Um, After having my own children, I became a surrogate mother. Um, the first time I had watched my sibling, she was a surrogate mother, and then I became a surrogate mother, and I had a boy. And I think either somewhere around there, one of my other sisters also became a surrogate mother and had twins.
Oh wow.
Um, it's a family thing. Um,
Right.
I then had another surrogate son, a boy that was delivered. And then my last pregnancy was twin girls. I had never carried twins before that, and it was a high risk pregnancy. The last month of the pregnancy, I ended up on complete bed rest and hospitalized. I was in the Trendelenburg position, where they put you at a 45-degree angle upside down. So to kind of keep the babies in.
Oh no.
I did that for about a week. It was hell.
So you learning gymnastics and all that stuff, and you ain't had no sex. Well, good evening.
Because that is part of it. For a good amount of time, you cannot have sex while you're a surrogate, because they want to make sure that it's the surrogate baby and not your babies.
Well,
And they need to make sure
yeah.
it's healthy and safe and strong. So yeah, that was a lot of, honestly, I really loved it. I love the couples I did it for. They were amazing people, very giving, very caring, um, everything I would hope for, and parents. And
Mm,
so, yeah, there was no, you know, sex, but
right.
the reward was huge emotionally. They were just really great people.
So what is the process from egg donors? Because most of people, including myself, just know, you know, I'm imagining that it's a lot more to it.
Well, it,
And we're you're making it sound so easy and everything like that. I want to know. I know some of my viewers want to know as well because I want to know um
what's
the
that
the
about, right?
process. Huh? Yeah, it ain't just like, oh, I'm going to the refrigerator, I'm pulling out some grade A eggs and no,
All right. So
that's
I'll walk you through it. It's okay. So first, you start on birth control pills. This is to make your body stop producing your own hormones. It's to
okay.
make your body just be a blank slate, where they then give you the right hormones to create many eggs at once. And once
Oh,
these eggs have because once a month we get one egg that shoots out, maybe two that shoots out. But during egg donation, you want to get as many as you can. So they give you hormones to make several produce at once and get nice and large and healthy at once. And then put you under a mild sedation where you basically take a nap and they remove them. They
wow.
then put them together in a lab in a petri dish with the sperm to create embryos. Those embryos are later transferred into a waiting, eager mom or uterus. Um, so for me, that was egg donation. Once my eggs came out, I was done. Now, as a surrogate, I didn't carry any of my own um, babies. These were all embryos that were put in from into me. So it was the same or similar process: birth control pills to stop my hormones, and then hormones that I gave to myself. And these hormones were often injections. Sometimes there were these suppository pills that I actually had to insert into my vajayjay. And then you scoop it all out and shove in another one. It was very messy.
Oh wow.
You have to be very comfortable with your body
Right.
to
I would
shoot
imagine.
yourself in the butt too with hormones.
Right, but just because you're sharing your body with a,
Absolutely.
a, a couple. So when you started egg donoring, that how many years before you actually were your own had your first son?
Let's see. I was an egg donor. I think I was maybe 18 or 19. I had to be a legal adult. So I was probably
Okay.
18 or 19. And I had my firstborn, I think I was 22, maybe 23.
Hmm. The thing that I'm amazed at and is everything that has happened to you at that point in life, you still have a desire to be more and do more for other people. This is before your own child.
Yeah,
So other than the money, there's something else inside of you saying, let me be of service some kind of way. And that's amazing when we attach ourselves to those lonely roads,
thank
you
you.
know.
Yeah, no, I had seen my mom. Um, I'm so inspired by my mom on a regular basis. Um, when she got into foster care, her entire goal was to keep families together. So if there was one sibling, she was taking them both. If there's two siblings, she was taking them both. Um, Even after they'd been kids in the foster system for a while with her, after she had adopted some of my siblings, their parents wanted a chance to communicate and be around their kids. She wasn't for it. She said, yes, you can be around your kids. As long as it's safe, yes, you can spend the night with your kids. There is no greater example of family and parenthood than my mom. I mean, my dad's amazing too, but
Right.
my mom really embodies motherhood in a way that I'm not worthy.
Well, you got your own journey.
I do, and man.
So when you start having what's the time frame and number of your own child from egg donoring to being a surrogate?
So I was an egg donor in I think it was 1999. And then if you actually count the years, I was pregnant on average maybe once every 2 years for about 10 years. So
Oh, wow.
I had
Hey.
my first one, my kid one in 2001. I got married in 2000, had him in 2001. I had my next child in 2003, and then 2006. I had a surrogate boy in 2008 and a surrogate boy in 2010 and surrogate twin girls in 2012. And then I had my own pregnancy and miscarriage in 2017.
Let's talk about that, because that's what really kind of brought our conversation when we were talking, and you were saying some of the things that you were going through during that time that we don't often hear about, or people are, not comfortable in sharing. But talk about that experience right there.
Oh, this is probably my first serious relationship out of my marriage. Um, he was abusive. There's no sugarcoating it. He was scary abusive. Um, and I was excited to be in a relationship, and I acted like a damn teenager. 7 weeks after we met, I found out that I was pregnant, and it was crazy. I was about 3 weeks along, and which is really early to find out you're pregnant, but I had experienced extreme back pain, so bad that it kept waking me up throughout the night. And I said in the morning, can you drop me off at the emergency room? It was less than 2 miles away. And he said, no, that's what ambulances are for. And he left. I'm not sugarcoating the abusive part, I promise you. I found out I was pregnant, and first thought was I wanted an abortion. I went through, the weeks of this back pain, which ended up being my gallbladder. I went through the surgery of having my gallbladder removed. And when I came out of surgery and went for my first prenatal visit after that, found out that my baby, my embryo, had split into twins, identical twins. And I went through the back and forth with him in and out of the relationship for a good while. And a few weeks later, before the first trimester, I miscarried our twins. Their heartbeat stopped. Honestly, if I've said this before, there's a cost to the relationship we had. And if I hadn't lost my twins, I would certainly not be here to tell my story, because I would have died. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. There was a period, though. It was a long relationship. I mean, we were together almost a year. I miscarried in April. We didn't break up until December. That I owe a lot of that to my last job. I told you about walking in and having this feeling of being respected.
Right.
But it was crazy to be walking through this office, being treated one way and treated entirely different, a different way. And like at home. It got to the point where I was at the holiday party. It was my first holiday party with this company. And there was one of the guys that was a little bit inebriated. And one of my coworkers was there at the holiday party with his wife. And this coworker kind of prided himself on being that very scary, intimidating person, when he was actually very, very kind, and he was just a really kind person. He just never showed it. So when this guy was checking out his wife, this drunk person was checking out this angry coworker's wife, I was terrified. I thought, because of my experiences, she was in for it when she got home. Right. I knew without a doubt he was going to beat her ass when she got home, because of how hot she looked and the fact that someone was looking at her.
Right.
But as I'm watching her, I realized she wasn't afraid. She was a little uncomfortable, but she wasn't afraid of her husband. Now, that night I went home, and my ex-boyfriend at the time had his holiday party. He was usually high. I'd never really seen him drunk, but he was drunk. And he was calling my neighbors racial slurs, which is entirely against everything I believe in.
Right.
That night, I'm in bed next to him, and he's holding me down in his sleep. And I kept thinking about this woman and how she wasn't afraid. I was more afraid for her than she was afraid. And that gave me the courage I didn't know I needed. And a week later, I ended that relationship and never looked back. I know that was heavy. We can lighten it.
Again, it's a testament to what we survive, because when we're going through these things, we think that's because it's the most prevalent in our life,
Mhm.
and so it's everything, but it makes you stronger as you go. And it's sad that we have to base our strength on the weaknesses of others, you
Absolutely.
know. And as you look and you go through life, it's like, wow, I can do it, but I shouldn't have to do it. And so at this point, you've had your kids, you've been married, and then here comes this. And so I know for me personally, when things happen now at 41, I can kind of sit back and be like, okay, there's a lesson, there's accountability, and then there's lessons. And then you go through the phase of, okay, I understand it. Now I'm trying not to be mad at myself, for allowing those things to happen or allowing the mistreatment. And so you found that release, I guess you would say, in your first book. So let's go back and talk about your first book and what it entailed and the courage and passion it is that you had when you wrote it. And the title and what's behind the title as well too.
The title. Actually, it was from online dating. I had been through some serious crap in life. This is just, what I've been through. This is what I've done. Um, and as I was writing the first book, it was just laying it out there because I wanted to prove I could write a book. I had for years been trying and for whatever reason couldn't do it. And a friend of mine said, "No, this is mindset. You've written several books if you count everything in your blog. Why can't you write one?"
Exactly.
So I had gotten my crap together and I started writing it. And the thing with the title is I was online dating and meeting these men that there's no nice way to put it. I was intimidating them um, because I had been through some stuff, which means I don't need to play games. I don't need a BS. If it's not right
Right.
for me, I have no problem walking away.
Exactly. Been there, done that, ain't going back.
Exactly. And I'm an autism mom. I'm fairly fierce. And it was this idea that as fierce as I am, as in control of my life as I am, I slay dragons. I'm a warrior dragon slayer. I have gotten through advocating for my children in school. I sued the LA Unified School District because they weren't providing for my kids and won. They paid me.
Hmm.
That is not something that everyone can say I've done. But you know what? I have because I fought for my kids.
Right.
I've gotten through so many things in life. And that's what it was is I'm a warrior dragon slayer. I want to meet someone that is one too, someone that can slay dragons with me. And as I was writing it, I realized I'm not alone. There's nothing special about my experience except that I've gotten so many and compiled them in a book. I know many people that have had miscarriages. I know many people that have been through domestic violence. I know other surrogates. I know other egg donors. Not many, but I know them.
Right.
There's nothing unique except that I've got all these experiences. They are in my life, and somehow I'm not broken by it. Somehow I'm thriving. I mean, my most recent experience, I got laid off from a job that I thought I would be at for much longer. And I felt relief. I felt this flood of just calm because I knew that this wasn't serving me anymore.
Right.
Not
And,
many
and
people say that.
right. And that takes again another set of strengths, another set of, that we have to go through. We have that conversation,
Mhm.
we're weighing things out. At least I do. Like, okay, this is the good, this is the bad. Um, and then for me, the higher power, my understanding, the spirit, whatever, I try to release it. I try to step out of the way. I'm getting better at it. you know, um, but when we're aligned, then you can see the difference when stuff comes in,
Mhm.
as opposed to the junk and the muck and things and the fluff. Because when you're in line on what you're supposed to do and you've allowed yourself to be open and vulnerable, it has a better, I guess, filtration system. The tap water is no longer coming in. Now we have the alkaline water coming in, sort of thing.
Absolutely. And what I've learned is when you're on the right path, you're taken care of. It's crazy. I'm laid off. I'm getting unemployment. I'm getting more unemployment than I did when I was working full time.
Right. A lot
I
of my friends, I've talked to them, and it's blessing. It's sad that we have to go through this, but
And it's a huge blessing. And
right,
it's absolutely taught me, do I want to work at a job where my commute is over an hour and 15 minutes and I don't have any time with my kids? I'm growing things in my garden. I've gotten not just my vegetable garden going, but I've got my indoor plants that are on the porch.
Mhm.
Um I've got indoor plants and succulents, and I'm growing things that I never imagined I could because I didn't have time. I would get home and it was dark, and I would have time to feed my kids, put them in bed, and go to sleep and start all over again.
Right,
And it taught me that I hadn't been doing what was important to me. And I am doing that now. And I'm looking for something that, career wise, that's in alignment with that, which
right,
it hadn't occurred to me in all this time that that was something I should be doing.
right,
And it's flowing, and it's not just here I am, I'm getting paid more, but you are actually fed when you're on the right path. And what I
right,
mean by this is when you're on the right path, you end up in conversations that you didn't plan that end up guiding you further. You end up sitting and not expecting anything, and you get fed, and people bring you things, and you are given opportunities and things that you never imagined you wanted. And
right.
that's absolutely happening right now.
Yeah, we're I'm trying not to tear up because us having this conversation, the stuff that I went through when I did my first set of the show, coming back, and again, it's not, it's hard to say, but it's not about us. It's about whatever vision, and me having this platform. Again, I'm able to share it with my friends and my associates.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm going through my personal stuff. I'm working on my book on purpose, but the universe aligns you, and we talk, we had talked, we've connected, we even had lunch. But
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that I've been hearing, and what brought us to this conversation, is because I changed the format of my show. Standing in Your Truth is not only for myself, it's for anybody.
Yeah, I
and
wouldn't
and,
have been
and
a
we're
guest on
trying
your
to
last
teach
show.
that. Huh?
I wouldn't have been a guest on your last show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But when you're moving and you put it out in the universe, it's amazing when you step back and just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
whether, I always like to say the higher power of my understanding, because I have no idea, and I don't want to claim to know someone else's affiliation. So I take ownership and I say the higher power of my understanding. But that within itself is a journey
Mm-hmm.
to be vulnerable, to step aside, because we want what we want when we want it and how we want it. We're humans. But
Absolutely.
it would bring it full circle to what we're trying to do and present itself. Again, your life speaks differently when you're on alignment, when you're on your purpose. The
Mm-hmm.
things that you allow into your life no longer have time for. And if that means getting rid of people, getting rid of places, for both your good and their good, and not labeling it.
No, absolutely. And I've seen that happen. And I don't think that it's necessarily this intentional, I'm going to cut you out of my life.
Hmm.
It's just the reasons that you once had to share space and time, they don't exist anymore.
Right.
And some people call it vibrating out. Someone's vibrated out of my frequency. Call it what you will. I just have no reason to share the same space. And
Right.
don't get me wrong, these people that I don't talk to or see anymore, they're absolutely close to my heart. But are we doing the same things? Are we even eating the same things? I mean, no, right now my priority has been self-care and learning to focus more on my finances while taking care of my kids. It's doing things that feel good to me, like gardening, walking through the dirt barefoot. Uh,
Right.
I just rescued a couple of crayfish from crawdads from an Asian market and put in my pond, and that
I
felt
haven't heard that.
really.
I haven't heard that name crawdads in a long time. Only few people call them crawdads, and if Tennille is on here, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Crawdad, Lord ever,
Well, I was in an Asian market and I saw them, and they're food. They would
right?
be great in some Creole cooking, but I
That's what
saw them
I.
and I wanted to take them home and I put them in my pond, and that made me happy. These are things that bring me joy for no reason whatsoever other than to bring me joy. And I'm doing them. And
Right.
it's been so long since I've done that selfishly.
For me personally, this time of distress has taught me a lot about myself. And I've used that. I wake up every morning and I make my bed. I write in my journal because I realized that somebody didn't wake up. For me, it kind of started last year when I turned 40, the appreciation of life. I've had a journal that I write in every day called Gratitude Journal. And it tells you to write 3 things that you're grateful for. And I cheat because my first thing every day is thank you for waking me up this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my calendar in the background where I check off the days because I realize that someone is not seeing these 86,400 seconds that I've been granted. So what am I doing? I've set my apartment. I'm crafting my ass off. I'm enjoying that. I'm excited because I don't know if you saw my last in studio show. I had a fashion designer and I interviewed him and things like that. I've always crafted as a drag queen. I make my own stuff. I'm actually looking into going into fashion design. I never thought that. It's like, oh wow, because like,
That's amazing.
yeah, I've
You're good
crafted
at it.
so much. Some of my best things. Did you see my Wonder Woman bag that I made?
No, but we've talked about your sequins and
Oh
stylings for
yeah.
enough
So
time.
let me show you my Wonder Woman bag real quick. This is one of my greatest things. It teaches me patience, and
Oh,
this is what it looks like
I
on
love that.
this side, and then on this side.
Oh, wow. I love that.
So I've had to, and again, I'm just like, I never thought I went from being a drag queen and an actor because I always say, okay, what's next, Lord? What's next that you want me to do? It was this show. It was changing the format. It was so many different things, but it's a blessing to be able to do what you love. Not many
Absolutely.
people are granted that opportunity because we're so caught up in, again, it has to look this way, it has to sound this way, especially when you're in the creative arts.
Mm-hmm.
You're always discouraged, no matter who it is. Oh, you need to find a real job. And it's not until you start making money doing that, then
That
people
they
pay
start saying,
attention
oh,
to you.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Right. So, and again, that teaches you patience, that teaches you resilience. Speaking of resilience, I love the saying that you said earlier, is taking post-traumatic stress and changing to post-traumatic resilience. And
Absolutely.
let's talk about that because that right there is such a blessing, to know it and to feel it actually.
So my dad is a Vietnam vet. He was Army, and I've lived with this post traumatic stress my whole life. Absolutely lived walking on dancing on eggshells. Um, he has a hard time remembering people's names. Vietnam was just yesterday. And as
Mhm.
I went through my own experiences, I realized that I too have post traumatic stress. And I refuse to live like that. And I learned that there's something called post traumatic resilience, where you take whatever traumatic event you've been through and you find resilience and strength and a way to pivot from that. And
Mhm.
that became my goal. And that means doing some deep inner work. It means facing my demons and writing
Ooh.
my, I know, in writing Memoirs of a Warrior Dragon Slayer, I actually experienced the most difficult emotional flashback I'd ever experienced.
Yeah.
And it was, I wrote about it in the book too. I went back and edited that in.
I may have to do that because I tell you that's where I'm at. I'm stuck right now trying to write mine because it's just so painful.
Oh, it wasn't just painful. I was physically, it's funny, when I had experienced things like being raped and being abused, there's this moment of just feeling like I was disconnected from my body. I was disconnected from the situation. Talking about it was not an emotional thing because I couldn't feel it. And as I was writing the book, I started to get in touch with my body. I started to experience and feel what it felt like in those moments of terror.
Mhm.
And there was a moment that I was triggered at work. Um, I had an email that was not kind on my part because I wasn't thinking about sensitivity and not throwing people under the bus. I was thinking, we fucked up. Excuse me. We need to fix the situation. Let me just get to the point. And it had inadvertently made a couple of people higher up in a different team of the company, made them look bad. So they pulled me into a meeting, and I was in the meeting with two of my coworkers, and my manager was available on Slack, so we can message him, but he wasn't in the meeting. And it went from let's walk into this office and close this door, and it was calm and it was boring. It was one of those things I was like, this could be a freaking email. They turned and they snapped, and it was anger, and it was all of a sudden unsafe. And don't get me wrong, I didn't think they were going to beat me, but my body reacted like the times that I was date raped, when it went from cool, comfortable being with friends and people I trusted to all of a sudden, why is this happening now? Stop. Um, and I felt like I was sinking into my body. I couldn't hear. It felt like there was fuzz, and I was sinking and getting smaller and shrinking into myself, and I froze. In fact, I remember messaging my manager, and I had written the same sentence to him twice. Not copy and paste, not hit return twice, but literally type the same sentence twice, because I was so frozen in place and I was lost. Um, Another friend of mine that worked there, like the weekend happened and I sat with it, and it felt like they were intentionally trying to attack me, to the point that I took it to HR, not realizing that I might have been overreacting because I was triggered. I thought they did something wrong. Um, and it was something that I had taken to HR. And after the fact, HR is like, why are you making false accusations? No one else experienced this. And, you know, they were right. They were right. They did not know how to cope with my situation. Um, and in the normal world, my reaction wasn't normal. They were absolutely right. But I was lucky to have run into a friend, Ari. She does life coaching. Um, and she's like, she couldn't connect with my experience. She had no clue what I'd been through. Lucky for her. But she did give me some reasoning. And she's like, how do you think they felt about the situation? What do you think their experience was?
Right.
And putting it outside of myself, I realized I couldn't let them just feel like they were these crazy people. And it's okay that I'm crazy, but they should at least know why. Within days, I went to these two women and I apologized to them. And I explained, this is my personal history. This is why I reacted the way I did. It's not your fault, and I'm sorry. Um, it had been decades since I had felt that. But I was finally able to feel what it felt like in my body to be traumatized in that way.
Right.
Which, good or bad, it sucked. It happened. um, but it was one of those things that, you know, it's those stripes. I was able to push past it, and not just push it down and ignore it, but I was able to work through it, which made me stronger. I mean, how crazy is it that within days of going through that, I was not acting like it was normal, but aware of what had happened,
Mm-hmm.
aware of what was real and not real, and able to push through and say, I can do better.
Right. It's amazing that the transition, because these things happen to us, and for years, you know, we've swept them under the rug, whether we knew what we were doing or not. And they play out in relationships. They play out in the way we treat others, the way we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I have been a big advocate on accountability, but then also there is other things, addiction, than just drinking and using drugs. I at one point was addicted to people pleasing and being codependent. And because of a lot of things that happened to me in my younger days, opened that door to codependency.
Mm-hmm.
And I can look back now as I'm beginning to unearth all those things, which has been difficult because again, you go from that transition stage from acknowledging what happened to working it out. But right now I'm in that point where I'm trying not to be mad at myself. I'm mad at other people who I thought who could have helped me. And so it's that, but because I'm no longer codependent, I don't need certain people in my life, or my attachment to them is not the same. And so that's been a big pill to swallow for me, is working through those things, you
What
know.
I have a hard time with is actually letting people in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Situationally, when we're in a situation, we're together for the specific thing. Say we're at work, say we're at church, say we're meeting up at a certain thing, I can engage and be friends and be the most engaged person you will ever meet. But when I'm out of that situation, it is really hard for me to reach back in and be like, hey, we're still friends. We're not in the same situation, but let's connect. Let's be together. And it might be about object permanence. That's just something I'm working through with my own trauma. So if I ever reach out first, it's one of those days I'm doing really well. If I don't reach out first, it's not personal.
Right.
And that's what happens with a lot of my friendships, which is why they don't necessarily go deeper and progress, because people feel it's one-sided. It's not one-sided. I just haven't grown that much.
I'm balancing out because I've been the go-to person for so many years because of the codependency. Mm-hmm. And then when I do speak out, it's because it's built up. I'm angry. I'm very thoughtful. I call, things like that. So I'm trying to balance all those things out. And again, in the midst of all that, trying to write this book, but I have to stop because it is too much. It's like going back and watching an old tape of yourself. And you're looking at it from different eyes now. It's an out-of-body experience now. And you have adult reasoning behind it, but you still have childlike feelings because those haven't been addressed, or you're in the process of addressing them. So where are you at now because you have the book, and that was one step. Again, I'm trying to get there. We're going to talk about that because I need some help with this. I need some help getting this book.
Absolutely.
But how do you maintain and balance life while working on yourself, while looking forward to things and raising your 3 boys?
A lot of it is being gentle with myself. Understanding I can't do it at all, and no one's expecting me to. Right. No one has that close of an eye view into my life to care that much. And at the same time, it's setting boundaries. I don't commit to things I don't absolutely want to do. Mm-hmm. That way, when I'm committing to things that I do want to do, I'm doing it 110%. I'm making sure that I'm intentional, I'm present, I'm there, and the value I'm providing is more than what I'm taking. And if I'm not willing to do that, then I say no.
Right.
When it comes to my kids, I'm very lucky. They are computer geeks. They love gaming. They only ask for my attention when they need a hug, which I'm happy to give at any time, even when they are not in the mood for that. And food. They're teenagers. They want food. Right. So my demands that they have as, me as mom, it's not that extreme. In fact, I think that's one of the most important things about parenthood is from the moment your child is born, they are working on a life independent of you. And the more independent they are, the more successful you are. Mm-hmm. Now, hopefully that means that they're happy, adjusted, contributing members of society. But even if they are not happy and adjusted, getting out, that's the whole point. Right. And I'm doing good in that. My kids only call me when they need me, and it's usually because they're hungry. Right. When I wrote my books, both of them, I was still working 40 hours a week. I was still spending time with my family, with my mom. She needed me. I called. I went to visit my dad. I was, I think, at one point playing golf with my cousin. Life didn't stop. I just happened to stretch where I wanted to. And the book was important. I think most of the trauma came out during the editing. Not getting it down, but actually sitting with it, breathing with it. That's where it comes.
So what are you're at now? You have this time now, you're working in the garden. So wrapping everything up as neat as we can, what are some of the things you would suggest? What are some of the things that you're doing? What's next for you?
Gosh, next. I think that depends on what day you ask. So during this quarantine, I have been working on building my credit. I've actually made it jump about 20 points since I've been on quarantine. I'm also, like you said, gardening. My goal is to continue working on the 3rd book, which is less about me, more about helping others, which is making it really hard because I feel taking me out of the writing is where it's not fun anymore.
Okay.
um, Creating or recording the audiobooks is important to me as well. Um, these are things that are on my to-do list, but in a very, very flexible way. I refuse to make myself a slave to my to-do list. It's more there to serve my goals. And if my goal is to embrace the laziness of the day or to hug my children, that's the priority.
Right.
If you know, I took about a month of putting everything on the back burner. My sister, after 6 years of being on dialysis, got a kidney May 1st, and
Mm.
um, you have to be close to the hospital where you had the transplant. So we were in San Diego at Scripps Hospital, or near Scripps Hospital, for about a month while she was in recovery. And everything for me that I had as a to-do list was on the back burner. And because I had intentionally committed to being present for my sister, I didn't at any point feel like I was doing the wrong thing. I didn't at any point feel like I should be doing something else. I just relaxed into it. I did some job interviews. I hugged my kids. I baked a few things. I learned how to make different dishes that I had never even tried before, only to discover that I prefer to buy it when it's already made.
See, and you'll never know these things if we don't give ourselves the opportunity. I always say, which I've been on this kick for a while, is that go out there and experience it. And then once it happens, but we label it. I spent more than half my life doubting the experience before it even happens, or in my mind saying, oh, it's not going to be this and it's not going to be that. And I'm grateful that I'm getting out of that, because
Mhm.
some of the best things, me being an actor, me being the first drag queen to be on the Pasadena Dude Opera, those are all things that I had reservations on. And I'm grateful that I actually did it. But then allowing yourself, again, like I have those days where it's like, I'm not getting out of the bed. And in those moments, I'm going to be the best laying in the bed bitch there is for that day.
Straight up.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's okay. You know,
Absolutely.
we have to learn how to be better to ourselves.
Hmm.
You know, and again, it's that water filtration. It's like I'm not drinking tap water anymore. It comes in, but again, that's the give and take that we allow ourselves from
Hmm.
having such things. And I'm grateful. On a good day, I can say I appreciate all the bad stuff, but on
Yeah.
a bad day, it's oh this MF, you know. But
Yeah.
I look back, even again, the relationships and interactions I've had with people. I was like, okay, I played this part in it. I could have said this a little bit different. I could have did this a little bit different, but what am I taking out from it? So it's that filtration of life,
So
you know.
at the end of the day, with all these relationships, were they the best relationship for you though? Because I guarantee you, as someone that has done the codependency thing, that has done
Mhm.
the servant thing, no matter what you did, were they meeting you even halfway?
I'm trying to find mine because I have a big book and it's been with me for years on codependency, and like um they have the AA book and things like that. Uh, this is it. And as you can see, it's worn. I've had it for years. I happened to stumble upon this book years ago, and it's
Nice.
been with me at least over 15 or 20 years. But just as there a big book for AA and CA, there's a
Mhm.
big book for codependency. And I
Me-
realized again that a lot of my traumas and things that I went through in life earlier propelled me to the codependency. And at that moment, it held me safe. I always look back and like think about mine, because I'm like, I can't believe how I've managed to go through all that. My mind protected me from those things and those emotions, but it also helped me to get to this place now where I can be more appreciative of even the smallest things. So yeah, I'm grateful for those experiences. You know,
Yeah, yeah, but it's okay that they're gone. I mean,
right?
those trauma responses. It's fight or flight,
Hmm.
fawning, and the last one. There's another one, but it's fight or flight, fawning, and freezing.
Hmm.
Fawning is something that is underappreciated, but so many people do it. When I mean
Say that one more time, Jessica. You said fawning?
fawning. So
Okay.
the fight or flight.
Yes,
You
I know
either
that.
fight or you run away.
Right.
There's also freezing where you do nothing,
Hmm.
and then there's fawning, and this is when you try to be small. You try to make the
Mm.
person happy. This
Right.
is where codependency lives.
Right. Yes, it does.
And I guarantee you that in the fawning, there's never ever a give and take. It's just a take, take, take while you give, give, give.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, it's not even exchange. But in that, you are never having your needs met.
Right.
You're meeting theirs and yours at the same time.
Or so what we think is our need, because we've deluded ourselves to thinking by me being small, maybe they're going to like me more, or maybe they're going to. And so, again, I'm at that point where I'm like, I sit back, I'm like, I can't believe you let this person treat you this way.
Yeah.
You know, and again, this is
Yeah,
that balance. Right.
no.
I'm working on forgiving myself again.
Yeah.
Again, that's where the I'm lifting the rug up every day, a little bit by a little bit, and sweeping some of it, because I've been walking over it for 41 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No,
and
absolutely.
you know, I got tired of being tired, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it started for me when I turned 30, and then it propelled from 30 to 40. But 40 was the kicker for me. Like last year, it was just, you know, and I tried not to go so, because I was just ready to cut. Let me tell you, my cutoff game is so strong, honey. I stop talking to myself sometimes. So I have to learn. I have to learn balance, and I have to learn again to forgive myself for being small in those moments. You know, for not sticking up for myself and not trying to hold a grudge. Because
Mhm.
again, I have to say I allowed that smallness to take place. So if I know a person didn't have a gig for me, or talked down to me, or treated me a certain way because of my size, my all these things, I try to not hold that against them. And that's a whoo.
Let me help you with that one too. We're all just a mirror.
Mhm.
Whatever it is that you see in me, you also see in you, which is why you're like, I can be with you. We can talk. We can drive, because you see so much of yourself in me.
Right,
I see myself in you. When people see them yourself in them and they reject it, they're not rejecting that. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting themselves.
right.
It's not
And
about
that's a hard pill to swallow too, because it's
you.
like,
It is.
you know, rejection is, oh, she's a horrible whore. You know,
She's such a whore.
you
But
know.
but at the end of the day, it's really important to remember what they're seeing isn't about you.
Right.
When they're angry and raging, it's not about you. And I will say this 1,000 times. If they're not paying you, they're
Huh.
laying you, they're not feeding you, why do you care?
Oh yeah, well I say the F word, honey. I use all F of them: feeding, fucking, and financing, baby.
There
That's what
you
I say.
go.
You
If
know.
they're not doing that, why do you care?
Right.
They're
And
not living in your skin. Your
we
skin is
have to get
beautiful.
past that. You
Mhm.
know, I've experienced that in the beginning of this year. I'm working that out, and I'm grateful. I had a phone call last night from a friend who, again, I've allowed myself to be open to spirit. So he uses other people. And my friend called me, and again, I've been feeling some kind of way about just giving up. And he called me out of nowhere. And you know, I'm just like, okay. And when you hear it, when you drink that good alkaline water, you're just like, okay, I'm here. Again,
Yeah.
I had a show planned for Friday where we were going to talk about, you know, the protest and, you know, people who have a problem with people who say all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. I couldn't do it. And I sat there and I had 4 guests lined up.
Mm,
And I sat there, and these were, you know, and I'm very thorough, as
I
we're
do.
going back and forth. Spirit was like, no, you can't do it. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't disappoint these people. I've asked these people, and gracefully, they were gracious enough to understand, because they know me, or they're
It's
getting to
not
know
just
me.
you. It's overwhelming for a lot of people. And the people that are speaking out against the protests, they're speaking out in their own fear.
Right.
And as people personally, I've lived this my entire life. And
This ain't new for me. That
yeah.
I wrote a poem last week on another open mic I did called "This Shit Ain't New to Me." So I get that people are
Yeah.
2020 mad, but I've been 1995 mad. I've been, all these mads. Where were these people at? So I
Yeah,
get it.
I
And
lived
then,
through the 92 riots. I remember.
right,
I
you
remember the
know,
very first time someone called me a nigger. I remember that.
right. And these, I get it, but you cannot tell another person how to feel or their level of involvement because you're doing this.
Hmm.
And again, I have this big issue with people who are so, we could have an opinion. And if you were to say the sky was peach and I were to say it's purple, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't see it my same way, but I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm not going to
Exactly.
tell you, oh, you're problematic, which is such a catchphrase that people love to say now. Because you don't agree with me in the way I see it, then you're the problem. And I'm like, how do you fix your lips to say that? But again, that's a whole nother story.
It is. No, I kind of feel like I'm okay with being the problem. That means you're uncomfortable. And I need
Right,
to make you comfortable with the fact that these things are happening and it's up to us as a society to change it.
right.
If
They
you're
were outside
uncomfortable
my
with it, that's
door.
the problem.
I don't watch the news because of my
Same
empath
here.
and things like that. So I was getting all these calls with people saying, "Oh my God, they're outside, they're on your street," and I turned the news on and I just was because I don't. It's such an energy drain.
Oh, I won't
But
watch the news.
the people were protesting and marching on my street, and it was just something. But I want to thank you, Miss Jessica. Thank you again.
Thank
Because
you.
we could go on and talk. I had to stop us from earlier this morning because it's like, we have so much to catch up on, but
Old
we're at that
friends, we
same
do that.
level. Like when we went out that day, we were out for like what, several hours when we had
It
lunch.
was. It was supposed to
If
be
you didn't have
a
to go
drink
back,
after work or
right.
dinner, and it just went for hours.
So again, I want to thank you. If you can let everyone know what you're up to again, tie everything up. We're gonna have your information, your book information,
Thank you.
your website, because I need to go check out the website because I'm like, baby, I'm trying not to hit this virtual pole because I need a side gig right now. But if anything comes down to it, baby, I'm working at the jiggle room, honey. So
There you go.
whether I'm in drag or out of drag, I'm gonna jiggle something. But give us your information and tell us what you're working on right now.
Okay, so I am Jessica Reedy. I am the founder of my webpage. It's our website. It's Crushing the Chrysalis. It's www.crushingthechrysalis. The idea behind that is you destroy the cage that created you,
Mm-hmm.
and you become that butterfly. I've authored 2 books now: Memoirs of a Warrior Dragon Slayer, There's Room for More, as well as Uncovering My Sins. I'm working on the 3rd book, to be determined, because I'm being gentle with myself. In the meantime, you can find resources on my website, whether you are looking for support um, in your journey through domestic violence, whether you need support with suicide prevention. I've been there.
Yeah.
My goal is to help people. And if you want to learn more about my books, it's there. Or you can go to Amazon. Searching for me won't hurt. It's Jessica R. Reedy.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it's easier to find me under the title of my book. I just haven't paid Amazon to like boost me.
Okay. It's always something.
And that's a minor thing. My big thing is to help people.
Right.
There are some domestic violence groups on Facebook, and I do my best to support people there. I don't ever tell them about my book. I just want them to know that there's life on the other side, that you can take what you've earned and make something amazing with it. You can grow, you can leave that situation, you can do better. I love the fact that I'm doing better than my exes.
Right.
1000%. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. I'm glad we finally got this conversation out. We have been working on it, and I had so much other stuff going on. I was trying to, fit it in and balance the titles
Did it
and
work?
yeah. So everything happens for a reason. I'm glad that we have this opportunity. We don't have to rely on going to the studio, which I not miss the studio, but it helped me step my technology game up because
And that's
this
amazing.
is something new for me. So
Yeah, you had to help me through this too.
yeah. And like now it's like I'm a Zoom whiz. I'm holding, like, okay. And that's why I always like to meet first. So that way, okay, this is what we're doing. We're cutting the sound off. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Charlie Harley Ha, excuse me, my campus news teacher from high school, who helped me with all this broadcasting and things, and propelled me to, be the person I am today. His assistant, my good friend Greg Munda, who's recovering from having a stroke, God bless him. Um, all my friends, again, it's a blessing to be here on this earth, but to have a friend that you can say, we've known each other for 20 something years,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing. And again, I'm grateful for allowing myself to be allowed to have this platform and share with others. Thank you for sharing with me.
Oh, thank you.
And let's work on something else. But I'm definitely hitting that website so I don't have to hit that virtual pole, honey.
Yes, because I do have resources for side hustles. Whether you're
Okay.
wanting to sell some stuff, whether you're wanting to learn about other things.
You said sell some stuff, really?
Well, I've sold
Oh,
weddings.
you meant that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
My sister, I don't sell that stuff.
Well, speak for yourself, baby. Because if there's a
I can
buyer
barely
for it,
afford me. No one else can afford me.
okay. Because if there's a buyer, baby, because my hustles are gone. Like I always used to joke and say my side hustle has a side hustle,
Yeah.
drag, acting, all that kind of stuff. And now because of this whole thing, it's put a halt to it. So it's teaching me to, again, with my crafting and stuff like that. So when this is over, I'm really gonna look into going into fashion design, maybe getting a job somewhere doing costuming.
I think
You
you do
know,
amazing.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this next step. So
I'm excited for you too.
thank you, and thank you again. I know your boys is waiting on you because.
Oh, they
Oh, okay. I know my cat is somewhere around here. She like whatever. So thank you again. Thank you for all those who viewed it. Thank you for watching. This has
Thank
been another
you.
episode of Standing in Your Truth. Miss Jessica, thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
we will talk with you guys soon. I'm
Yeah.
ending the video. So everyone be safe and be blessed. We'll catch up in a minute, Jessica.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's see.